Hello and welcome to Language, Culture, and Dr. Lou. And also welcome to Volume 2 of my series on colorful idioms. And what I really like about these idioms of color is that we use colors in our speech to represent different emotions, different states of being, and different circumstances. And because these colors are only used metaphorically to represent things, a lot of times what colors represent changes depending on what language we're speaking. For instance, last volume 1, we gave expressions with blue and with pink. And so blue is a very good example. In English, if you're blue, you're very, very sad. You're overcome with sadness about something. And so that's, yeah, very sad metaphorical meaning for blue in English. I also mentioned expressions with pink, like the French expression La vie en rose, which means life in pink, is all about seeing life through happy hues, yeah, it's all good if everything's coming up pink. So life in pink, that's happy, happy, probably in ignorance is bliss kind of a thing. And whereas in English, blue is very, very sad. And so I find this, yeah, interesting that green as well in English can mean several different things metaphorically. And in other languages, it takes on even more meanings. And so that's why today I'm going to give you half a dozen expressions in English where we use green to express an emotion or state. And I'll give you half a dozen expressions in other languages that will give green even more meanings as far as describing circumstances or emotions or states of being. And so we're all very familiar with Kermit the Frog's song, It's Not Easy Being Green. And in that song, he was being very literal when he was talking about green, when he was singing about things that are the color green, such as himself. Now, in English, often when we say being green, if someone is green, the metaphor is that they are inexperienced. Like, for example, if today is my first day at a brand new job, let's say I got a job as a server in a local bar and grill, but I had no experience waiting tables or tending bar or any of that. I am green, right? I haven't had any experience to learn by, so I'm inexperienced. I'm green. And of course, being inexperienced isn't the only state of being that we can mean by green in English. We also can talk about someone going green or saying they are green in an environmental sense when we're referring green to represent nature, which it often does. And so if you go green, you're becoming an environmentalist. You're adopting an attitude where environmental conservation is important, so save the planet and all of that. Recycle, lower your carbon footprint and all of that. So that's, yeah, a second use for green, expressing a real attitude on someone's part. If you're green, that means you're very environmentally conscious, which is a little different than in the first example where being green was just being inexperienced. Now, another thing that green can mean in English is to be envious of somebody else. If you're green with envy, like you're almost hating this person because you feel like um yeah, they're better than you, or they have stuff that's better than yours or anything like that, and you want to be like that, or you want to have that stuff for yourself. You're green with envy. And that's an interesting thing to take on green. Although in both of these illustrations here, I gave they use literal color green to express this visually, but that's not what we usually mean. Not literally green, just you're envious or you're jealous. And I'm not going to go into the difference between envy and jealousy because there is a distinction there, but it's pretty slight. And people associate green with jealousy, green with envy, same thing. And so, in addition to different emotions that green can represent, we've got giving someone the green light. That's referring to traffic lights and how green means go. And so, if your boss gives you the green light to work on a project, then that means that she or he told you, yeah, go for it. Go ahead. They gave you permission. So, giving the green light is to give permission or approval. And there you go, to give the green light. So that's interesting. It's a very positive thing, much more than envy or jealousy, right? The green light, green means go, and there you go. And so one super interesting thing we talk about is having a green thumb. And so, again, this green is in reference to nature, plants, and all of that. And so we can say if someone is a good farmer, they probably have a good thumb. That means they're very talented and making plants grow and thrive. And so that's why this gardener in the greenhouse there is looking so happy because his plants are all doing so well because he really has a green thumb there. So that to me is also really positive. So I love it how many different um, ways green can mean something very positive, and in other associations, not so much. Now, moving on to a different metaphorical meaning of green. Um, The grass is always greener on the other side. That brings to mind being green with envy. Like this is sort of you're jealous of your neighbors because their lawn is always a little greener than yours, like that kind of a deal. So that's what this means. It means, yeah, jealousy, envious. Yeah, this is very much on the same line as being green with envy, but this time we're not imagining the person themselves being green. We're just picturing the neighbor's lawn being so much nicer than our own because it's so much better. And this is sort of a statement how when you're living inside your own problems, they must seem so much worse. And it's so easy to look at somebody else whose problems you don't know so well and be like, oh, their life is so good, all that. And the fact is, you just don't know. And that's kind of what this expression is about. It's the grass is always greener on the other side, but only that's only the way it seems. So pay attention to your own grass, make it thrive, and your grass can be just as green. Now, moving on to other languages, um, one of the green idioms I found is in French, c'est la fin des haricots verts, which means literally it's the end of the green beans, or that's the end of the green beans. And what in English we use a very different metaphor, and it's not green beans we're referring to, it's straw. When we say it's the last straw, right? That's it. I'm at the end of my rope. I've had it. It's the last straw. Um, so that's the end of the green beans in French. It's that's the last straw. And it's funny that in French we're using a culinary reference. I love that. In French, there's a lot of proverbs involving cuisine, and I think it's because French cuisine is a very part of French culture. And I love idioms that way because they sort of can point out to us things that are important in different cultures. Now, speaking of different languages, there's a fantastic green idiom in Spanish, sacar canas verdes, um, means to give green hair to somebody else. So this expression here means if someone in Spanish says to you, "You're giving me green hairs," what they mean is that you're annoying them, right? You're pissing them off, which is why why the woman in the image looks um so annoyed that she's furious. And that's because someone was just giving her green hairs. uh, and so that's green taken on metaphorically to mean something pretty disastrous, right? Pretty emotionally dangerous. And so in another language, of course, we've got Italian, where we use green mice metaphorically to talk about threatening someone. So if in Italian you make someone see green mice, that means you threaten them. And so these two little green mice may not seem so threatening to you in the image here, but mice are really this they're really something that phobias are created around. And so maybe if the two little mice aren't feeling threatening enough, imagine there were 200 of them. That to me is a frightening thing. I would feel quite threatened by a couple hundred little green mice. Um, but anyway, yeah, so green mice, making someone seem green to mice, that's just threatening them in Italian. And it's funny, Italian's such a beautiful language, and I found so many super interesting idioms in it using different animals in different ways. But anyway, today the idioms of concern are in color. So let's keep on with the green. And so this is the first of two green idioms I want to talk about in German. And this one means literally, you green nine, which means good grief or oh my goodness. You know, someone is super surprised by this. It's a little, yeah, shocking. If in German someone says, "Oh, you green nine," it's kind of like, "Wow, oh my goodness, oh good grief." It's that kind of shocking thing. And the origins of this expression are not completely agreed upon. It is thought that one possible origin of this expression would be in reading cards, reading people's fortune with playing cards in green. The nine of spades would be the one referred to in German as the green nine. And the nine of spades, if you're telling the fortune of somebody, means nothing good, means absolutely nothing good. So that might be part of that, and that's part of why I picked an Uno card here to represent it. But again, it's not agreed upon what is the exact origin of this expression. But I think it's funny because um, yeah, because it's so much different than any expression we have in English. Saying you green nine in English doesn't mean anything to us. But in German, it means, oh wow, good grief, that kind of a deal. And so a second German idiom is related to, remember when I mentioned in English being green is being inexperienced? In German, if we use this idiom, it literally translates as to still be green behind the ears, which goes back to meaning to be inexperienced. So I find that interesting how German and English both use green as a color of inexperience, as a color that means inexperience, although it's not that surprising because German and English are both Germanic languages, so they're related to each other. So, um, yeah, I wonder if the link is found there somewhere way, way back in time when the languages were even more similar to each other. Anyway, and so I have other languages other than French and Italian and German to talk about idioms with green for. And so Polish has a green idiom to send onto green grass. To send someone onto green grass, to send onto green grass is to fire somebody, like fire them from their job or fire them from work, which probably explains why this guy out sitting on the green grass is looking so pensive, as if he's worried about his future or wondering what the heck he's gonna do career-wise now. Because yeah, in Polish, someone sent him onto the green grass, and so he got fired. There you go. And so the very last green idiom that I want to talk about today is from Mandarin, you know, Mandarin, um, Chinese, and the expression, of course, their alphabet is quite different from ours, so you can see it in white figures over Luigi's face there, and so the translation literally it means he wears a green hat, and that's why Luigi of the Mario Brothers is the person in play here because Luigi wears a green hat. And so the real meaning of this expression is that his wife is cheating on him, right? So that's why you see the picture with Louis, Luigi's bride holding hands with Mario behind Luigi's back. That's because in Chinese, wearing a green hat means your wife is cheating on you. So, wow, what a sad thing. So, again, it's amazing to me how many different things green can be taken to mean A within English and B, once we go into more languages, we get more and more meanings with green. And so thank you so much to watching for the until the very end and watching all my idioms about green. And so please do like the video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do that. As well as if you have any favorite expressions with green in them, please share them in the comments. I think that would be a great conversation starter. And also, if you haven't watched Volume 1, um, I'm including a link to that video in the description for this video, so you can find it there. Or you can go to my channel's homepage and look for Color Idioms Volume 1, which references pink and blue. And so you can look forward to the next volume, Volume 3, which I'm going to start working on immediately, will be expressions with black and white. And so thanks again for everybody who watches to the very end. And again, stay tuned for video 3 for volume 3, and I will see you around next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.